We were at about a 200 crore odd run rate, and cut to, it's been 3 years exactly to the dot, we're at 1,000 crore run rate now. We built one of the largest communities for mothers, pregnant and new mothers. More than 25 million mothers used our platform. I was always funded by institutional investors, right? So as an entrepreneur, a lot of people don't realize this. They say, paisa utha liya, to aapka salary bhi, it doesn't work that way, right? That money is coming to the company.
Right. If I am in a corporate job and I want to start my business, do you think there's a certain principal amount that one should have in their bank account if I want to go without a loan? Hi, I'm Sahiba and welcome to Girlboss, a show where we decode how successful women went from 0 to 1. Today's guest is an enthralling entrepreneur. She was a law graduate but switched to get an MBA degree from Harvard Business School. Not only was she a business consultant, but then she moved to be the founder of a very successful parenting platform, interestingly, called BabyChakra. And now she's also the co-founder of the Goodlam group. Please welcome Naiyya Saggi. Naiyya, congratulations. Your CV is extremely strong. Great experience.
Thank you, and I feel like I'm sitting in a job interview with you.
I know, I started off with your CV, but obviously I stalked your LinkedIn. I was like, amazing. Wow, what a girl. We are very happy to have you here on Girlboss. So first, I noticed that obviously you started as a law graduate. And it's not very common for people from law to jump into an MBA. And that to Harvard, and that you got a Fulbright scholarship. So can you just take me through your initial days, your journey, and how did that happen?
So the journey from law school to McKinsey was almost like the jumping point from law to business.
Right.
I also love the fact that, in law, in some sense, you're all about sort of creating problems, but in consulting, in business.
Solving.
It's all about solving.
Yeah.
So that really appealed to me because I'm by nature quite an optimist as well. I do think that there's so much to build and so much to solve for. So I joined McKinsey, and I think that was really a very formative experience on understanding how businesses get created at scale.
Right.
The fact that, when you look at CEOs, and I was interacting with a lot of CEOs and board members at that point in time, as a young 23, 22-year-old, you realize they're not very different. They're just people who've gone through certain life experiences and are struggling with many problem statements, right? So that kind of humanized the whole concept of leadership for me as well.
I think that's what people mistake, that business is all about numbers, but I just think that's a very small part of it.
Well said. Yeah.
It's all about people building, network. Culture is very important as well, wherever you're working. So it's safe to say that because you met so many founders and business leaders, you felt the need to now start your own venture, which you did with BabyChakra?
That's right. I mean, it just made it seem that it was possible.
Right.
Otherwise, building a business just seems like an impossible dream. It just sounds like a complete uphill battle.
Yeah.
And it is. It's like, let me not sort of trivialize it at all. It absolutely is. But it's possible for people to do it.
Yeah.
And those experiences, those conversations, seeing businesses being built at scale and interacting with people who build those businesses at scale. Right. Made me realize that but hum unse itne alag nahi hai.
When you have a 9-to-5 job, especially in consulting, okay, it's not 9-to-5 in consulting, but if you have a cushiony, sustainable, solid job, jumping into something like your own venture and starting a business takes a lot of bravado, firstly. But also kind of a little bit of anxiety about not knowing and uncertainty about what it's going to hold. So how was that leap for you? Was there a lot of fear there to leave a job and going to something unpredictable?
You did that. So let's start with that. But so let me tell you the context on when I started, right? So I started about a year after business school. So after HBS, I was working in Boston for about a year, again in consulting. I was having a great time in Boston, and I was looking back at all the cool things happening in India because I was very connected, of course, back home. And I was reading, your story, and I was reading all these, I was reading the ET virtually, digitally, and I was like, this is really cool what's happening in India. So I think that really prompted me to say that, hey, I don't have any loans right now because I was fortunate to go on scholarships to HBS, which was a very big unlock for me.
Of course, yes.
In fact, so much so that when people reach out to me now saying, should I do my MBA? I actually sit and discuss the pros and the cons. It's not like it's a slam dunk that you must.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a pro and a con, right? But anyway, so having the Harvard brand behind me, having the McKinsey brand behind me, and also having no loans. I mean, if I don't build something, right, then who will? I think, Sahiba, it all boils down to saying that today we're in India where it's possible to have multiple plan Bs.
Right.
I don't encourage plan Bs when you're considering entrepreneurship at all, but it is a very different India from the one that our parents grew up in.
Of course. I think the options are a thing.
Are
That
there.
if not this, then this is always an alternative.
Absolutely.
And I know a lot of people try to discourage you that, if you have a plan B, that means you're not sure about plan A, that you're not confident. But I don't really believe in that. But talk me through BabyChakra. You were young that time, you were not a mother.
No.
So how did the idea of BabyChakra, and if you want to tell our audience what the platform is?
So the platform essentially is a community platform. We were one of the first folks, this is 2015 I'm talking about, right? So dating myself a little bit here as well.
Yeah.
But when we built out BabyChakra, the whole premise was, and it was kind of built off the inspiration we had while working in public health, while I was a consultant, and seeing these communities of care really play out at scale on the ground, right? So you had the best performing in terms of healthcare outcomes for mother and child, villages or districts, based on the fact that there were communities of mothers coming together. The Asha Anganwadi workers and the PHC doctors were intervening at the right way, right time. So you could see communities really made a big difference to how care was approached and the right interventions were administered at the right time. So that same idea, we were wondering how to make it for an urban audience, and take it on a digital stack and build virtual communities of care. So that's what we ended up doing. We built one of the largest communities for mothers, pregnant and new mothers. More than 25 million mothers used our platform, and with doctors as well, who were intervening at the right time. More than 10,000 doctors were part of that ecosystem of care. Cut a long story short, we realized that while we built a lot of scale in that platform, monetization was difficult, right? Because you're looking at 2015, 2016, 2017.
Follow-up question.
Right.
How did you generate revenue through this?
So the first couple of years were very tough. We were doing a little bit of ad-based revenues. We tried a lot of business models, right from subscription revenues for the services we were profiling on our platform, on to figuring out a marketplace for mom and baby products, because there are a plethora of brands in the mom baby space, right? So how could you become like a quasi Amazon baby, quasi First Cry, right? And this was again a time before First Cry is where it's at today.
Yeah.
So we tried all these models out, but again, I think the structures just weren't working. We found very strong product market fit when we then decided, a little bit later than we should have, to be honest, to move to products, our own products, because our community actually came back to us and said, why don't you launch BabyChakra products? There is a gap in the market for this kind of a solution. We trust you as a platform. You understand our healthcare, you understand our skincare and nutritional needs. Why don't you launch a whole range of baby products? So we started off small. We started off with 5 products, and we launched. We had about a couple of months inventory when we launched. We launched it on Amazon, a third-party marketplace. And the weird and the really cool thing was that when we launched, in literally like the first 1 week, we were out of inventory.
That's amazing.
It was amazing.
As a new brand.
It's a new brand. Correct. The sulfates means.
Competing with that.
So at that point in time, we were competing with your Mama Earth, your Mom's Co, right?
Okay.
Now, what happened after that was, of course, the merger with Goodlam happened.
Yeah.
And now BabyChakra has become part of the
now
Mom's
you're
Co.
working on Mom's Co.
Yeah. It's great.
How life goes a full circle.
It's great.
So now if I have to ask for BabyChakra, which is the leading probably stream of revenue, would it be its products?
It would be its products, yeah.
Yeah. And was it Bootstrapped when you initially started?
When I started, we'd raised friends and family funding and also some angel money.
Okay.
And then we raised venture money later.
Right.
Yeah.
Was it hard, because of course you came from the US initially as a woman, to be an entrepreneur and going for rounds of VC or angels meeting? You felt as a woman it was a little challenging than probably if you were
Little is an understatement. Huh?
Yeah.
I mean, it was very challenging. And I didn't realize it originally, to be honest, because I had a very broadly ungendered view of the world, right?
Yes.
And that's privilege.
Yeah.
Very deep privilege. But HBS is very sort of gender neutral. McKinsey was fairly my tenure, right?
Yeah.
Very gender neutral. So I really didn't feel it. Then when I went fundraising, I remember like these conversations which would revolve around what happens when you become pregnant, what happens, why don't you have a male co-founder, why don't you have a co-founder, which I get, but why don't you have a male co-founder? It was all these questions, and they were, again, this is a different time, right, in the evolution of VC and of entrepreneurship in India.
Right.
But that actually made me even more determined that going forward, no other entrepreneur, especially a female entrepreneur, should ever experience that. And, I can tell you more, but we've been doing a lot of work on that front as well. with a bunch of female and male founders to that effect.
So that was strange. But now, again, after you spoke about the merger, heading something like the Goodlam group, amazing group, everyone knows about it. You lead so many business verticals within it, media houses as well. Is it challenging for you to kind of divide your time between, say, D2C brands to media houses to content vertical, etc.? There's so much going on.
So the way it works is that, right now it's how the founders kind of divide and conquer, right? So currently Darpan and I are pretty much like working on the group together. And Darpan is, he's the person who founded Glamm. And he's the one who brought everybody together, right? So a lot of the brand, the commerce decisions is something that he takes for the most part, in terms of the go-to-market, marketing, the content strategy fueling it, or like our group sort of corporate PR, how we come across, because essentially we are here for consumers, right? To really understand what we stand for, what our value system is, what our mission is. A lot of that is led by me. So it made sense, and that's really why we decided to join hands. It was a very, very strategic move.
I love it, how everything feeds into each other. Even the media platforms, you're talking about Pop XO, Scoop Whoop, Miss Malini. Similar young audience, aspirational. So now, do you think this is a huge conversation people are having, the power of content and community in business? And since Goodlam has that under its wing, how important do you think is content in today's day and age to build a brand?
It's massively important. And it's so interesting. I can talk ad nauseum on this. But if I were to just kind of break it out and say what gives the right for D2C brands or insurgent brands, as I'd like to call them, the right to win, and the fact that a lot of them are already winning in the Indian context, also globally, is because we make better content than some of the incumbents. Right. I mean, I talk to a lot of my counterparts in the more traditional FMCG, BPC play, and the one thing they constantly call out and they want to learn more about is how do we create content. Today, brands are being built differently on a share of mind space, on a mission alignment, on saying that does this brand appeal to me individually as a customer? What gives the brand and gives me the right to trust that brand, the brand the right to like sort of have space in my beauty cabinet or my bathroom cabinet or my kitchen. So I think content is a very distinct voice that the brand then adopts and creates for itself. And leveraging content which is truly authentic is superbly critical.
I think authenticity and credibility are the key words here.
And also educative.
Of course.
A lot of products coming into market now are new innovations, right? So in a way, it's almost like it's not even serving latent needs. It's actually serving needs that maybe the customer don't even have. Or
it's
don't
like
even know
almost
about.
Creating a market because you have to tell the people like this is there and this exists.
Absolutely.
I'm going to delve into a few numbers now. I wanted to ask, because a lot of viewers are budding entrepreneurs and especially women, and they have businesses of their own. So when you started BabyChakra, if you're comfortable with sharing, what was your initial funding and how did it grow from there?
So we raised 4 rounds of funding. So we did our angel, then we did a Series A, then pre-Series B and a Series B. And we raised it from a bunch of Indian as well as international investors, largely from health tech funds, because we were largely a health tech play at the heart of it. But equally, like some amazing angels. So for instance, Anand Chandrasekharan, who was part of like the founding team at Meta, Mandir Gulati at Oyo Lightspeed, like a bunch of amazing, with Mandar Vaidya. So that was the first sort of play. And from there, that's really what scaled the growth of the platform. But to be very honest, Sahiba, it's not like we grew the platform on the back of marketing monies. It was actually very organic, very referral driven, a lot of product led growth.
Do you think in India there's a certain range in which you feel like, if I am in a corporate job and I want to start my business bootstrapped, do you think there's a certain principal amount that one should have in their bank account before starting? And this could be a wide range.
It's so much, it depends. I was talking to someone yesterday who was like literally jamming with me on exactly this question. She's in a very cushy job, extremely quite happy with what she's doing, but she wants to now begin her own venture. And her whole take was like, I want to start small, dabble a little bit, and then think about the big idea. I was like, you know what, just stay put. Like, just do what you're doing right now, and start thinking about what is it that you want to build. Right? Like, have those conversations, figure out the industry, figure out the founder market fit as well. Like, a lot of times, this market looks hot and exciting, let me jump into it. But You are going to be the founder building it. So
course,
what
yeah.
gives you the right and the spike to really build in that market? And number two, is that a market you want to be passionate about building for the next 5, 10, 15 years of your life? So take your time, like give it a proper thought before
Right.
jumping into it. Or if you want to do something small, then do something small which is in line and kind of feeds into that bigger idea that you have.
Okay, so
right?
maybe
you,
like kind of compound it.
you
towards
can,
that.
exactly. That's exactly the term I use as well.
Yeah.
Like think about what is going to compound to that bigger
Right.
idea that you're building towards, right? Like if you want to build something in mom and baby, don't start something in chocolates. I mean,
Yeah,
as a
fair
proxy,
enough.
right?
Yeah.
And in terms of the money, therefore, that you need to have, and I'm so glad you asked this question because it's a very practical decision to be an entrepreneur. It's not
Yeah.
always an emotional decision. I think those times are gone, right? So you need at least like 18 months. So, for your startup and your fundraising,
Like you need some runway at least. You
Correct.
can't just be like, I'm quitting and I'll take a loan and...
Correct,
Yeah.
right? Like when you're fundraising, you raise money for 18 to 24 months of capital at minimum, correct? You are your own startup.
Exactly,
Right?
yeah.
So now, how do you have enough money to keep yourself afloat through that period of time when you're not going to be earning much?
So those are two things. Now, how do you keep your business afloat and how do you keep your personal life afloat?
Yeah.
So for an entrepreneur, maybe you can just answer for your personal self. When you started your own business, were you taking from the business? How did you monetarily keep yourself in place?
The first, I would say, couple of years, I didn't really take very much. Obviously, like I mentioned, we were trying to figure out product market fit on the monetization angle, right? And that wasn't that time, right? It was about building to scale.
Yeah.
So everybody's like, build, money will come, right? So it was that period of time, but to be also cognizant of the fact that money was not really coming in at that point in time and the building process was on, we were on very, very small salaries. Now, it wasn't like it's a typical business where I'm like doing a profit share ke upar, take a... I was always funded by institutional investors, right? So as an entrepreneur, a lot of people don't realize this. They say, पैसा उठा लिया तो आपका salary भी, it doesn't work that way,
exactly,
right?
yeah.
That money is coming to the company.
Right.
And you are an employee of the company as an entrepreneur.
Right.
I had to sign an employment
Your
agreement.
salary is written in the accounts book.
Exactly, right? So it's an employment agreement you signed with the company, and then the company sort of pays you the money, and then that entire discussion and negotiation of the salary is something you have with the board of the company.
Right.
So that's exactly what happened in my case as well.
Okay, like I said, we're going to delve into numbers. So if I could ask you, what salary were you drawing from there? And then you decided, okay, I will leave.
So it wasn't. I mean, it was a very small salary, right? Because I was a business analyst at McKinsey,
Right.
But it seemed very like a nice salary out of law school, and like you're after your undergrad. So I joined at I think about 10 lakhs.
Yeah.
And by the time I left, it was about 18,
10
20.
was also my start. My second job also paid me 10. So that's interesting. So you started at 10 and then you left around 20. And then when you started your business, were you drawing a salary? Like
Drawing a very small salary, like
Okay.
literally, and I can tell you, like 50,000 rupees a month. I had some savings from my time at McKinsey. I was quite, I think, I don't know, I was quite, there wasn't so much to spend on when I was a BA because everything was taken care of.
Right.
You were staying in the best hotels, but McKinsey was paying for everything. So
true.
all the money was going into savings.
collecting points.
Yeah,
Using
collecting points,
later.
using a lot of points for travel.
Yeah.
So that's really
The typical consultant life.
typical consultant life.
Amazing. Okay, now I'm going to take a little segue to a rapid fire round with
Okay.
you. I don't want you to think too much, like on top of your head, whatever you have to say. I'm going to start. You ready?
I guess.
Top 3 must skills to have as an entrepreneur.
Resilience, determination, belief.
The biggest, best financial practices as an entrepreneur / company.
Invest in the future.
The top mentoring tips for women in tech.
I mean, just be represented. I mean, like, be out there, have your voice heard, be part of all sort of the big tech bros clubs. Because if you're not part of it, then you're not going to have a seat at the table anyway.
Yeah.
Number 2, it's a lot about putting your voice out. Because what I find is that a lot of the tech narrative, especially if you're on Twitter, right, you see this play out day in, day out, right? All the tech narrative on Twitter is still shaped, and in the world in general, is shaped by male voices.
Right.
And I think the third piece is in the funding ecosystem, right? It's changed from when I started off. I want to call it out. It's changed. So don't be afraid to build your own company out. Don't be afraid to build your venture out today. And know that there are enough and more women who've kind of been on that path. Reach out to them, reach out to me, and we'll talk about how to navigate sort of this whole funding paradigm.
No, fair. Top 3 BabyChakra tips that you have learned.
on like mummyhood,
Yeah.
parenting,
On mummyhood.
or machine learning,
Mummyhood.
on mummyhood. I actually think, and in BabyChakra, we saw so many women across so many contexts, right? Such a privilege, really. And there were so many talented mothers who just dropped out of the workforce, and it was difficult for them to get back. So I've said this many times. I'm going to repeat this again for a new audience who hopefully is watching this one. That when you have a baby or when you're pregnant, right? Don't completely drop out of what you're doing. Keep it on a slow burn because it's tougher to kindle that fire again from scratch, right? But it's okay to kind of light it out to a higher flame always.
Yeah.
So don't drop out fully. That's one big piece of advice/suggestion I'd give to anybody watching and who's in that life stage. The second is that, you're not raising this child alone. I mean, you decide to have a child as a unit, as a family. So whether it's your partner, whether it's your husband, whoever it may be, please have those very frank chats if you don't already see it forthcoming.
It's not just your responsibility.
It's not your responsibility, right? And then that's the way you will be able to build out your life and your ambitions and your aspirations and also raise the family along the way. And thirdly, over-index on care, right?
Okay.
And what I mean by that is self-care is super important. We get really busy just caring for everybody else. We don't care enough for ourselves, and we don't, as a result, also learn enough constantly and continuously, right? So take the time out for self-care, take the time out for continuous learning. Time is your most precious asset, and only if you prioritize yourself and your time will you get it. So make that time for yourself.
That's great advice, thank you for that rapid fire session. Speaking about finances, I wanted to get your perspective on how do you handle your finances in terms of something as an entrepreneur versus salary versus personal finances. What is your outlook on the three?
So I'll tell you how my portfolio is, right?
Yeah.
And if that resonates, great. I'm not saying it's a perfect portfolio, it is one interpretation of it. So one is, of course, I have a lot of my money, if you will, or my net worth in stock, right? Which is my company's stock, right? So that's where I would have a bulk of my assets. But I equally have also invested whatever liquidity I got in the past into public markets, which is where I've done a bunch of blue chips, like more long-term investing. I'm not on the short-term traders, right? I look at more of a long-term perspective on the markets. I'm very bullish on India, right? So I'm holding on there. Another place I've invested money in, and that's a more recent development, is actually as an angel investor. So in a couple of smaller privately run entities. In fact, one of them had a wonderful fundraise recently, so I'm extremely excited. Property is the other one, which I've done a co-investment with my parents and my husband. So these are largely properties that we are renting out.
Okay. Do you do it in the city or outskirts?
In the city.
In the city.
In the city. So it's all all actually focused on Bombay as well.
Okay.
Which is not a very smart decision, but I mean, the areas we've invested in seem to play out. We've seen our rentals increase there.
Yeah. You spoke about real estate and rental. Do you think a lot of people already come from some backing that we have a home and we shouldn't invest in a house? What is your take on investing in real estate?
So I think it's a bit of an emotional decision in most of the metro cities. I mean, I would say certainly for Bombay, right? I don't think it's necessarily a practical decision. Unless for you, like the cost of putting in that money into buying the house that you truly want to live in as well is a very small portion of your overall asset base, right? But it's expensive to buy a house in Bombay. So would you be better served putting it in the stock market? That's the question everybody asks.
It's like a trade-off that you can ask, which is better for you personally or not.
So I think it's a bit like in Bombay, for instance, to buy a property which would be a property that you want to live in, have the same living standard that you would get if you were renting as well. I think it's a bit of an emotional decision. It's not as much a practical decision. I don't know if that holds true in other cities. I think maybe in parts of Delhi, parts of Gurgaon.
I think tier 2 cities are still easier, but a city like Bombay, you have to really think this through to the T. In terms of, you also said that you're an angel. In terms of what I've been hearing a lot in the VC ecosystem is some buzzwords which keep on going around. One is AI and the other is like clean energy, sustainability, etc. What is your take on it?
No, it's a great question. For instance, Sequoia has called generative AI as foundational technology, as electricity, right? So the belief is that in future, if you like kind of fast forward like 5, 10, 15 years, and I'm saying 5 years because it's moving as fast as it is, it's going to be an omnipresent. Like you don't question like why the fan is on or why the light is on, where it's as like sort of omnipresent.
And nothing surprises you anymore.
Nothing surprises you anymore as well, right? And in fact, so much so that if you look at what Anthropic announced yesterday or today, right, where you're looking at a Claude 3.5 model, which is taking over your computer. So that Ananya Pandey movie, right, which has that
control,
right? It is real now. It's happening, right? So I think because the avatar people have seen of AI is a lot of these fake videos, fake IDs, the authentication.
Your bots
being a
or
problem.
deep fakes.
Correct, like the call wo jo aata hai na, that thing that's trending on WhatsApp, etc. So that's the avatar people have seen of AI. There's also, by the way, a real issue, if you will, and something that needs to be solved at scale on the skilling and upskilling that will be needed, right? Because a lot of people are worried about losing their jobs or their meaning in the workforce 5-10 years from now, because already you see layoffs happening, right? So you're right, there's a lot of fear of AI, a lot of, I would say, uneducation about what impact it can have, and a lot of skepticism because it's become such a buzzword now that people are not really stepping back to say, how does it really impact my life on a day-to-day basis? Let me figure that out.
Yeah. So just going to pick your brain on some other things. What do you forecast as the next few trends in the next 5 years?
I see, I'm super excited about robotics. I think there might be a future where we see robots actually enter our households in a much more mainstream way, take on a lot of our domestic day-to-day chores. So I'm super excited about that.
I think India is just moving at a crazy speed. I'm sure as an entrepreneur, you're just thinking what to do next, and there's so many options. And as an investor, you're just like, kahan dalu main paise, kya karu?
One more trend I want to talk about, right? India is in a very unique position of having, of course, its median age of 27, but also equally having a very large elder population as well.
Elder care was also picking up recently. I've seen a lot of businesses.
Prime Minister recently raised money. But that's old age living, elder care living versus like, So I think there's a space around elder care as well. I think that's super exciting. And it's something that can also have a global brand being built out of India because the world actually is an aging world. Right? So, when I think about the big trend there, one, of course, a sub-theme is elder care, but the broader theme is Indian entrepreneurs building global brands from India.
Great. A lot that you have spoken about, which I think I'm also going to take, and I'm sure people are going to research about these sectors too. I'm just going to ask you about investing. What do you think as a woman to be financially independent are like your basic investment requirements?
So I've heard a lot about people saying that investing just seems very tough, right? But it's actually not. I mean, I think the starting point should be like an SIP. I think that's as basic as it gets. Then read a little bit about the stock market, see where different stocks are going. If you want to be safe, invest in a couple of blue chips. Because those have very low variance typically. Also prepare to hold on for a longer time. But that's also a liquid asset in a way. If you need the money, you can withdraw at any point in time, right? So I would say, I think, and the third piece, of course, is mutual funds. I mean, that's also a safe place for you to put. I mean, the returns are what they are, but I do think it makes sense for people to use that as a bit of a initial starting point in your journey of investing.
I'm going to ask you a question I ask all the girl bosses who come here. It's a fill in the blanks, if you will, all right? To you, a girl boss is dash.
Is brave.
I love it. She was so fast with this.
I mean, sorry, but was I not supposed to be?
No, I love it because usually people think, but it just very authentically came out of you. Is brave. Thank you, Naiyya. Honestly, that was very, very interesting. A lot of amazing insights. I learned a lot. If you want us to get any specific guests, please let us know in the comments below and we'll be happy to oblige. Till then, like, share and subscribe to 01 Women by Zerodha.